at today's verdict. When a family member is neglected or abused while a resident of a nursing home, where do you turn? Who can you trust for help? Well, on set now to give some much needed insight is attorney Brett Leitner. Brett, it's hard enough just having a loved one in a nursing home. Do you find that they end up in the nursing home directly from the hospital, or do family members at least have a chance to shop around and figure out which is the best nursing home for them?
Well, it's a good question, David, and it could be either.
Okay.
Oftentimes, you'll have someone that's been living independently at home or in an assisted living facility, and they require a higher or a heightened level of care. In that case, the family can go around and shop and find the nursing home that's most suitable for the person. But there are many, many situations where someone will be in a hospital and the family members will be told that, hey, we're going to discharge you tomorrow. Here's a list of the nursing homes that are willing to accept you.
And pick one.
And pick one.
Now, each individual that comes into a nursing home, especially when they come from the hospital, they come with, medical issues and reasons why they're going into the home, right? So you would think that the staff from the nursing home would understand what they're dealing with and how this particular resident may need a little bit more care than another resident. Do you find that happens or not always?
Well, by law, any resident that comes into a nursing home, the nursing home has to do a full assessment to determine what needs and requirements that individual resident needs.
Okay.
Now, whether the nursing home abides by what they're supposed to do, that's a totally different story.
Now, interesting, when they do this assessment, because a lot of people don't understand this, are the family members there? Do they get to say, Grandpa needs a cane when he walks the hallway, or or a feeding tube, or whatever it is? I mean, do you get some input from the family members, or are you basically on your own there?
Yeah, I mean, when the nursing home resident is initially admitted, there will be an initial meeting, and the history will be taken from the resident if they're available to do that,
Sure.
or from the family member. And the family member will give their input, but the nurses and the doctor at the nursing home, they have to do their own full assessment from head to toe.
Okay, so now as an attorney who I know represents a lot of these individuals who unfortunately are neglected in the nursing homes and unfortunately have either suffered either medical malpractice or some kind of injury, tell me the types of dangers you've witnessed during your practice.
Absolutely. So the number one sign of neglect that we see most often are bed sores. Now, people have heard this term. It sounds pretty horrible. It's also known as pressure ulcers or decubitus ulcers or pressure sores. And what is that? Well, a normal healthy person that is sitting in a bed, for instance, or in a chair for an extended period of time, that person won't develop any issues with their skin. Now, if you have an elderly person who might be medically compromised, who might be wearing a diaper or adult briefs, which can be wet for an extended period of time, if that person has medical issues and they can't move around or change their position by themselves, in a matter of one night, in 8 hours, that person could develop severe skin breakdown known as bed sores.
Now, what is the staff supposed to be doing to make sure that you don't suffer from the bed sores?
There's many, many interventions that should be done and are required to be done by law. Now, if a person is immobile and can't move themselves in bed or in a chair, the number one thing is that the staff has to help them turn and help them reposition themselves off of these bony areas of their body. Number two, if a person is incontinent and is wearing briefs or adult diapers in bed, the staff has to come in every 2 to 3 hours and change that person.
From what I hear many times from friends of mine who have loved ones, they're always falling. There's always an accident, a fall, grandma fell down, something happens. Do you find that this is happening in the nursing homes, and why is it happening?
Yeah, I mean, we are increasingly seeing residents fall, and due to the nature of their medical symptoms, I mean, these can be traumatic falls with fractures of the hip, fractures of the femur, brain injuries, brain bleeds requiring surgery. This is very serious. So the reason is a lack of staff usually. Many residents were once independent and they want to be able to get up out of bed by themselves when they really shouldn't. But if you have one aide, for instance, that's required to take care of 20, 25, 30 residents I've seen on a night shift, that aide can't possibly do everything they need to do to supervise those residents.
Okay, so let's say there's been an accident now, right? I would assume, or I'm hoping, that there's some type of report that's in either, I don't know, a hospital record or somewhere. Does that happen, or does this get pushed to the side somewhere?
Okay, so by law, if there's a fall incident, let's say, or even if, and we're seeing this more often, instead of the nursing home saying that there was a fall, they will say that the resident just was found in bed with a fracture, that their leg spontaneously fractured, or they call it a pathological fracture. They say your bones are so weak, you're elderly,
just broke on its own.
broke on its own. Okay. We're seeing that constantly. If that happens, either one of those situations, the nursing home by law has to do an investigation and report that to the Department of Health.
They do?
Yes.
Okay, so you get the client now, I assume through maybe a family member, because the client can't reach out to you. I'm sure it's either the daughter or the son or a family friend member. What do you do first when you find out that, let's say there's been a slip and fall or a bed sore issue? What do you first do?
We speak to every family member and take a history and find out what their observations are. Then we go and get the medical records. Now, if you, as a citizen, you request your medical records, you'll usually only get a very small piece of the record. There are various parts of the record that we, as attorneys that do this, we know what to get. Okay?
What's the most important part for you at least to see?
Well, the care plans.
Okay.
Okay? This is the plan of care that the staff is required to follow. If you request your medical records, you will very rarely get the care plans, or the AIDS records, the CNA accountability records they're called. This is what the CNAs have to do for each resident. The nursing homes will very rarely turn that over unless they're required to.
Okay. Now, I'm kind of embarrassed to ask this, but do you find that there's either some doctoring of records or certain things to let attorneys know that things really were okay when they shouldn't have been okay?
We've seen it many, many times. Okay. I've used former FBI forensic experts as experts in my cases who have been able to analyze records using their equipment and find out that the ink was changed or that certain entries were made at a later date. Now, most of the records are becoming electronic, so it's harder.
It's much harder to be able to tell if somebody goes into a computer, I guess, and just puts in a paragraph saying that, you know, she was checked on at 11 o'clock and at 7 o'clock woke up with a fracture. I don't know.
That's right. But because of that, we are now going after the trail or the history of these electronic medical records. Of course, they're resisting that, but
Sure.
that's in litigation right now.
Okay, let's, and juries, right? Because these become jury trials. You know, sometimes juries are not so sympathetic to, let's say, an automobile accident kind of case. I would think with nursing home neglect cases, you would have a sympathetic jury. Do you find that?
We do find that.
You do?
I mean, everyone can relate to an elderly person or a parent, and that they should be treated right and have the dignity and respect to live out their last years in a dignified way.
Okay, tips. Someone's watching right now, they have somebody who's in a nursing home and they think something's not going so well over here. What do you say?
You have to be an advocate. I mean, you have to be there, you have to visit, you have to be the eyes and ears for your loved one in a nursing home. If you go there and you see that things are not cleanly, right? Things are not clean. There's no water available for residents.
Speak up, say something.
You have to.
How about pictures?
I mean, if
They
you
let
see,
you.
I'm sorry?
If they let you take
If they
pictures.
let you, that's an issue.
Right.
So if you see a sore, for instance, you have to document that. They do not want you to take pictures, but it's your duty and you should take pictures.
Where do we find you?
Yes, you can call me at 212-671-1110 or visit our website at www.lvlawny.com.
Good stuff, Brett. Really important. Okay, and you'll come back, I hope.
Absolutely, thank you.
All right, we have to take a quick break, but don't worry, we'll be back more Today's Verdict right after this.